This is Keith Price's Curtain Call. This is Keith Price, and welcome back to another edition of Keith Price's Curtain Call. And we are, I tucked away somewhere in another building in Manhattan. It seems like I can't seem to get enough studio time. I have to go out and about and be all caught up in the world, which is actually more fun because you don't get the opportunity to meet people if you don't get out your, what is it, that song in Avenue Q about going outside your apartment. And so today, because again, as we're going through this whole holiday season, I keep trying to encourage you guys to come out, and if you're going to be in New York City during the weeks of the holidays, this is a perfect opportunity for you to come and see shows, because there are lots of really fun, interesting, different shows that are happening beyond the big Broadway, which, again, as I always try to tell you, do not be sold completely on everything that's on Broadway, because what happens is in the end, you're going to hear about something that's coming to Broadway that had a whole off-Broadway existence, and then the next thing you know, you're like, I can't believe that I didn't go see it. I should have saw it when I had the chance. So I don't want you all to be missing out on stuff when you have the opportunities to see them. And so today, which is always fun for me because I love meeting playwrights and I love meeting actors, and very rare, sometimes you get the opportunity to meet the playwright and the actor who happen to be doing their own show. I'm surprised you ain't directing this, Todd. What's going on?
I'm producing it. That's enough.
I love it. So today's guest, who has a show that's running right now called The Big Uncut Flick, that's happening right now at Theater Row here in New York City until the 17th. Yes. Why does this have December 1st through 7th? 7th. All right. No. I was just looking going, is it me? Where's my glasses? December 17th here in New York City, which is fantastic. So if you're coming, an opportunity for which I'm starting to gather from the things that I've learned so far, from someone who enjoys a little vintage. Is that right, Todd Michael?
That's right. I enjoy vintage very much. Obviously, you can tell definitely by the press release there. Yes.
So you know, you are author, you are actor, you are. Is it because you don't trust other people with your work?
That's funny. I'm sorry. Actually, I'll tell you, the producing thing was something that just kind of happened. I actually had somebody a long time ago who produced, but she got burned out, and it's hard to find someone to produce. So I sort of ended up taking over doing it, and I'm pretty good at it now, but it's not particularly one of my favorite things to do. And I actually have told Susan before that, Susan Schulman, my press agent, who's wonderful.
Who arranged this interview?
Yes, that's right. Thank you. I gotta put that out there. My publicist, yes, who's wonderful. That you know, if I ever hired someone now, I'd probably be micromanaging them, because it's better, I guess, you do it yourself. If I make my own mistakes, I make my own mistakes, and I'm the person to blame as opposed to blaming somebody else. But it's not particularly my favorite thing to do, being the producer. I've had other people come up to me and go, oh, would you mind, my friend has a theater company, would you mind producing? I'm like, no. I'm sorry, I do not like it. So yeah, that's how that came about. And the writing just sort of fell into place, well, because like a lot of other people, you go and audition and you get into productions, and something always doesn't make you happy, but you do it. And I took a little break for a few years, and then I went to see a friend of mine in a show down in the East Village in a little theater. And I thought, I wonder how much it costs to rent this theater. Of course, this was, 15 years ago, when it probably was a little bit more inexpensive than it is now. And, of course, there's not as many off-Broadway theaters anymore either. And I contacted them. I thought, oh, maybe I'll do my own show. Get a bunch of friends together, Mickey Judy kind of thing. Let's put on a show. And the first show I did actually was not one of my own. I did a Charles Busch play, and then I actually wrote a little, just for the fun of it, I wrote like a little 5-10 page script. Started writing something, and I showed it to a friend of mine who was directing at the time, and he said, you should expand on this, and then maybe instead of paying royalties, you could do your own stuff. So that's sort of how it came about. And then the one thing that I like about it is that I have used a lot, well, not anymore, but use a lot of the same people, and you write for their specific, their strengths. Some don't like doing monologues. Some like doing monologues, and I write for the things I like, and the things I don't like, I don't do. So that's kind of fun to write parts for people. Like in this play, there was I knew three people that were going to be in it, and so I knew what they could do. So I wrote the things I knew that they're good at. So that's fun, and the other people I didn't really know, but they're great. And I have a whole new director now. Her name is Sing Mayer, and she's really fantastic. And this is very difficult because it's tricky. Because even though it's parody, it's not the ha 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 spoof parody that people usually expect. It's you're walking a fine line. There's moments where it's funny, but then it takes you out of it, and you're like, oh, this has almost become like you're watching a real movie. So it's something kind of different. I'm trying to do something a little bit. I've been trying to do something kind of different with parody, where it's not always the same old over the top. Which is nothing wrong with that, over the top, but just where the audience starts getting so involved, and they're forgetting that this could almost be like watching a movie or watching a TV program, that's what this is. It's like half and half.
Well, so we're talking about the Big Uncut Flick. I'm here with Todd Michael, who's a playwright, producer, and acting in this piece as well. And just a couple of things that were coming into my mind as I was talking to you when you were saying that that by doing all of these different pieces, you don't enjoy the production part of it, which tells me that you are probably more the creative person and enjoy being in the creative lane, period, from the writing that you like to do for other people. But getting back to that, it's like, it doesn't sound like you had a lot of writing experience before you decided to do that 10-page treatment of sorts after that Charles Busch play. How did that just, to me, it's sort of like, where does that kernel manifest when you get to that place? Like, and now you're 5, 6, 7, 8 plays deep. That's huge. How do you do? I mean, for the average person that has the idea, how do they go from that to where you are right now?
Well, I read a lot of plays to get the structure down, because I never was. I mean, I went to college and everything, and took some writing, but it was never something I was crazy about. But I read a lot. I read a lot of plays and things to figure out structure. And then I also, basically, it's like I'm writing something that I love. So I figure if it's something that you love and you're writing it, then that's half of it right there. And I learned a lot along the way. Mistakes I made. Sometimes I've gone back to old plays that I've done and go, oh God, did we really actually do this? But the one thing I think, which was probably really instrumental in giving me a lot of confidence in my writing, was so I guess 2002 was the first play. Maybe it was 2003 was the first play I actually wrote. And then in 2005, I submitted a play to the Fringe Festival because a friend and I were sitting at a bar one night, and he had been a reader at the Fringe, and he dared me to send a play to the Fringe, and he said, "You're not going to get in." And he said, "So I'm daring you. And if I win, I'm buying you a drink." Well, I did get in. Wow. So, of course, I'm still waiting for that drink. So that's So, and that was great. And then when I met, I always get Elena Hawley. Is it Hawley or Hawley who runs the Fringe? I always, because I really do like her. When I met her, she actually told me that she had actually read my play personally, and she liked it. And she said, we get so many parodies and spoofs, and they're usually not faithful to the time period. They're just made up. And she goes, and I just read your thought, my God, this is like a movie. She was like, I mean, it's got those elements of the heightened way of playing. And so I thought, oh, wow. And so I did about 4 Fringe shows before I got burned out of that. From that, I mean, that can, 4, that's a lot. But so that really kind of gave me confidence in my writing, and I've learned a lot. I still make mistakes, and you still get people who either like it or they don't like it or whatever. But this is something I enjoy, and the thing for me that's always interesting is that to find the actors to get to play this, because through the years doing the Fringe, and when you do the Fringe, you get a lot of people to audition, and you realize how many actors don't get it. It's like they don't know how to play it. It's such a it's such a difficult playing style because you have to play that heightened way, but yet you have to be faithful the time period. And then the same time you're playing in the style of how they played in those movies, which was somewhat theatrical, or depending on what time period you're doing. So and then yet still be funny, but they have to be totally into it, or else it's not funny.
Well, it sounds to me though it's the general commitment to when it comes to doing anything like a stage piece that's supposed to be funny,
right.
Or like a comedy sketch, like doing improv. When I used to do improv comedy, one of the things that I found to be very interesting and helpful was that the trick is that you, the individual performer, have to be serious about what's happening. No matter how absurd it is or how,
right.
out in the left field that it may seem to everyone else, but you as an individual artist have to play it seriously so that the funny can really ring. Right. And as long as you're playing it seriously, then you don't have that step into camp. Because, this piece, the Big Uncut Flick, is like you're talking about movies set in the 30s, which I'm totally with you on that. Give me an RKO picture any day of the week. Yep. Shut up, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's sort of like for it to be an 8 show a week kind of thing, or that the actor themselves have to be mindful of not stepping into camp, because you put on a pair of glasses, you get a really fantastic bowler hat or some sort, or the classic film noir cigarette moment.
Right.
You can just go anywhere with that, and you wind up losing the point. So for you, when you were putting this piece together, the Big Uncut Flick, how hard was it to get the actors? Because that's the most important thing. How do you prep the actors? Because not only are you writing this piece and you're acting in it as well, that gives you a better insight to it than even the director. So how do you, with those different hats, get them to get where you need them to be?
Well, the number one thing was to get the right director, and I have a really good director where she loves these kind of films, and she did her homework. So when she walked in and we were in rehearsal, I didn't tell her much. I mean, she said, "I'm going to do my homework," and she would say, "Okay, this is your close-up." And the actor was actually doing it with a look. I'm like, "Oh, she's getting this. This is great," because I hadn't really had that before in a director. And then, like I said, I do have 3 actors who have worked with me before that I knew what they could do. I think the main thing is that most of the actors, once they're on board, they want to start watching they always ask for a list of movies to watch. And they say, what are some movies I can watch to get the characters, or get or the rat-a-tat-tat of the dialogue, that clip, or in the way of speaking, and that's always great. And then they find certain things, and then of course the thing is they take that and then they take parts of themselves and create their own to make it comfortable for them. I don't totally want them to be saying, I want you to play. I don't want you to be this particular character actor from this movie, but find little pieces of it that will work for you, and you create your own character. Because some of the three of the guys, is that right? 3? I'm just trying to think. 3 of the guys play multiple characters. 2 of them play like 5 or 6 different roles, and they go on and off in just a hat and a jacket, and they become these different people, and they're great. And then I have a young lady in the show who's playing 2 roles. She's getting to play the good girl and the bad girl, which is fun for her, right. And she gets to, when I told her that, because it's like, who wants to just be the good girl all the time? So she gets to go back and forth, which is a lot of fun for her. And then my friend David, who seems to be stereotyped, he's playing a nun. He played a nun in Asphalt Christmas, and he's a nun in this one, too. I got to get him out of the nun roles. Yeah, I got to get him out. I promised him next time I'm taking them out of the nun roles. Yeah, he's got to get out. Actually, it's very funny. When I wrote Asphalt Christmas, I originally wrote the nun role for myself. I thought, I'm going to, I can gain weight. I can put a nun's habit on. But no, I played a role where I had to have a quick change I forgot how many changes of costume. I thought, really? Why did I do this to myself?
Diva.
Yeah. Well, this one I only wear one costume, which is great. I wear one beautiful dress, and I'm on stage for the whole thing, and so thank God that makes it easier. I just get to be on stage and not have to go, oh, I got to put on another costume. So that's a lot of fun. But
You know, we're with Todd Michael here on The Curtain Call, and we're talking about his piece, The Big Uncut Flick, which is happening right now at Theater Row here in New York City, December 1st through the 17th. And as the writer and actor and producer of this piece, it's very fun for me because at this stage of the game now, you are clearly getting to write the things that you like writing about. So for you now, what's next on your agenda of things to write? Because this is the business where you have to keep it moving. They keep telling me you got to keep moving. You're producing, you're writing, you're acting. That's not enough. You got to do more.
Well, that's hard because, you have to get the money together to put on a show, and it's expensive. So I try, maybe once a year, and then last year I took a break. Actually, it's funny, I did my Christmas show somewhere else. My friend David is actually here from Wisconsin, and we actually did my Christmas show there as a fundraiser for the theater he's involved in. So it was fun to go somewhere else and actually act, and that's all I had to do. Because they produced it, they did it. So that was kind of fun. And it did very well, and they made a lot of money for the theater, and he wants to do it again next year. But I don't know. I need to probably take a break. It's a lot of work, and you have to start really early. But it's the money. I mean, it's a lot of money renting the space and getting the money together. I mean, I feel bad for people who have to put the money together and do it. And a lot of people get disillusioned. I'm realistic. You don't make any money. I mean, you don't. And if you're walking and thinking you are, then especially if it's off Broadway, forget it. It's just the theaters there's less theaters, like I said before. It's expensive. I'm willing to do Theater Row because everyone there, it's very professional. It's a wonderful space. I work down little places in the Village. I don't want to do that anymore. Little places where you have to walk up rickety stairs to get up. I'm not doing it. I'm carrying stuff down the stairs. It's like, wondering if you're not going to go right through the step, or the railing is like, it's jingling, going back and forth.
Sacrificing for the art.
Oh, I know. And I've worked in some of those places, and I was like, I'm not doing that.
And that means you deserve a nice theater and a decent dressing room, right?
Yeah, well, the studio is small, but it's a small space. But I like the intimacy of that space. And when we did Asphalt the second time, we were actually in the Lion Theater, which was huge. That's an 80-seat theater. It was like, whoa, went from 50 to 80. And it was, yes, the dressing rooms were much nicer, and it was wonderful. But we had stairs. I had to go up and down, make all those changes, going up and down those stairs. I was like, oh, no.
Cardio. See, we have to start. You know what I mean? You have to do that thing where you have to repurpose it so that it doesn't feel as awful as it actually sounds.
Oh no, that's what I did. Like, I'm losing weight. This is working.
Get the dresser in here because they're gonna have to change.
I actually did. I ended up losing like 17 pounds between the time, like in a month. Which this time I've already lost 10 already, but I'm not going up and down all those stairs. And that was nice that we were in a bigger space. And but I like that little theater upstairs, and I think with this, especially with this show, I think when the audience is that close, they're much more attentive, and they're right on top of it, and you can really see the difference in the people's reactions as opposed when they're further out there, and you're more like on a proscenium, which is more like what the Lion is. But I just wish the seats were not those hardwood things. But luckily, the show is only 75 minutes, so it's okay. I know. Because in the line, I was like, oh, everybody's gonna sit in these nice, comfortable seats, But those chairs are not comfortable to sit in, and I do feel bad. But I just keep saying, it's only 75 minutes, folks. I'm not making you sit there longer than that, so it's not too bad.
It's like you're not doing Richard II or something. There's the third. Yeah. I love it. That's Todd Michael with me here on The Curtain Call, and his show, The Big Uncut Flick, is at Theater Row right now. What theater are you in at Theater Row? Which one is it?
The studio. It's a small one. It's on the fourth floor. Yeah.
Oh my Lord, that sounds like a walk up though.
No.
But they have an elevator.
It's Theater Row. Yeah, they have an elevator.
Yeah. Because you deserve it.
Thank you.
You deserve it. You deserve that.
They actually even have, I think they have a lift where when you get up, because there's some stairs that go, they actually have a lift, like if you need to go down, like right there. So, that place is, they got everything covered. Everything covered. And the staff there everybody there is amazing. That's one of the reasons I'm willing to spend the extra money, is because and they take over everything. They deal with the ticketing, they deal with everything, and they somewhat promote the show, and they're great there.
Well, and again, as you say that now, because one of the things, that, like you talk about the challenges of being able to put on your own production like the Big Uncut Flick, is that as a producer, you have the hardest part of making that happen. I think next to the publicist of making sure that you can help get butts in the seats. I mean, all of that is a part of that conversation. What I'm trying to, it's just sort of like when you talk about how this place takes over everything, is it sort of like the way that it has to be now to do independent theater like yours? It's not guerrilla theater when you have the elevator and you're not having to schlep stuff up the stairs, but at the same time, it is the same energy that goes into it because you're fighting to get every little thing that you need to get to make these big shows like this happen. Right. So for you, dealing with the Theater Row as it is now, it's like, is that the way that you hope that theater will kind of continue? Because 50, 80 seat houses are the perfect off Broadway spaces. So to have that so close to Broadway, I mean, it has. I don't know. Do you think that it takes away the grit, shall I say, that the theater of the day? Because your type of show is a very, and not to make the comparison, but you brought his name up earlier, but it's like a Charles Busch moment in that there is that level of camp, but at the same time, there's a level of you've got to be in the zone for that. And it only can exist, truly, it seems, in those kinds of spaces. So,
well, that would be great, except there's not as many of those theaters anymore. That's the sad thing. I mean, it's just every time I turn around, it's like there's less and less off-Broadway theaters, or it's a shame. That's true. But yet there's something about that with Theater Row that they do so many different kinds of shows there. I think our audience is such an interesting mix of people. Sometimes I felt like even in downtown, our show was not downtown enough. And actually, I had that from like some people I worked with. They're like, well, your show isn't really avant-garde. It's not really whatever. You need to, and it's such an interesting mix of people that come to see the shows because we have older people for the nostalgia. We have younger people who laugh because of some of the camp value of it. And then there's kids because now Asphalt there was language, but most of the time I really avoid doing any kind of language. There's innuendo, obviously innuendo, but I think sometimes it's so easy to go to the cheap thing and use language. The only reason in Asphalt that I use language is because the show was about a Catholic school, and there was a young girl looking like the girl from The Bad Seed, and she was possessed by the devil. So she would cuss when she was possessed, and I was her mother, who was a burlesque performer, and she was terrorizing the nuns, and I know it was a crazy show, and there was a priest who trying to and of course at the end her whole head turns, and the priest saves her at the end, and I'm reunited with my daughter. So. Yes.
Autobiographical piece, right?
Autobiographical. It's crazy, but it's fun, and it wasn't like the traditional Christmas show that people but yet it actually had a heart, because at the end the girl, she sings and dances at the program, and everybody comes in together and sings this Christmas song I made up, and everybody's like happy at the end, even though this girl has terrorized a whole school and. It was crazy. Terrorized the nuns, and
But then again, as a good Catholic would, you'd have to explore the conversation of forgiveness.
That's exactly what it was. That's why we all sang at the end. This show was not quite as insane as that one was, but maybe that's why people liked that show, because it was so weird.
But that's the beauty of stuff like this and the Big Uncut Flick and. A lot of the other work that you've been able to get out there is that you're given the opportunity to once add another slice, I think, to what's in the pie of entertainment. Because, again, I am the first person that lives for a good camp moment. I ain't even going to pretend. And if you throw a boa or give me a cigarette holder and a boa and throw a sequins or something in it, shut up. Come on.
Well, there isn't any of that in this, but there's enough other stuff. But this is a little interesting, because I did this play with a different title. Oh God, almost 10 years ago, and but I totally rewrote it, because I went back and I looked at it. Oh, you know what? I want to rewrite this play because I like the whole idea of a husband and wife hosting a TV show like in the 1950s. They used to have all these horrible shows back then, and movie shows, and then have the movie kind of happen right there, and they're just sort of watch, and then in between they're doing commercials and they're doing little chit chat things like they used to do, and I think it's kind of an interesting concept because I've never seen anybody do that before, and I just thought when I first started, I thought, you know, it was so different. I thought I want to go back and revisit it because I haven't really seen anybody try to do that with parody before. I thought, well, you know, I think that's kind of fun. You're watching two different time periods. You know, you got this 50s thing going and this 1930s movie thing going, and so I just thought it'd be a lot of fun to bring it back and look at it a different way, and like I said, totally rewrite it. And I think it's better than it was when we did it originally. I'm hoping it is. I think it's fun and entertaining. I don't want to make people feel it's not like out loud. There's moments that are very funny, but it's not laugh out loud constant like a farce. There are moments that are very tender and sweet in it when you're watching. You're like, oh, that's like watching a movie, and that's what like I said before, that's what I really wanted to do, get people to, you know, forget for a moment. Oh, wait a minute, am I watching a parody? Oh, this is so interesting. And then now the TV thing is a little bit different because the husband and wife don't like each other very much. So, and there's the underlying tension between the two of them there, and then they have to work together. Yeah, that's sort of how it is. So, you know, everything's sort of almost not quite, but like behind gritted teeth, except they're not gritting their teeth. But it's like you can really sort of tell they're like, oh, yeah, they're not that crazy about each other. Yeah, but that's okay. But they put on that whole fake persona for television. So, but I think it's a lot of fun, and people. I mean, the audience that we've had so far, you know, I've heard people go, oh, it's cute and it's fun, and I've heard, you know, older people are like, oh, it just makes me think of watching an old movie, and you know, it's fine. It's a great different. It's everyone. People's reactions are completely different across the board, and then some people are, you know, I think some people walk in, and they expect this crazy parody, and then they see something different, but I still think they're like, oh, that was so different, but I liked it. It was different. Yeah.
I love it. Oh man, well, Todd Michael, thank you so much for hanging out with me. This is really a lot of fun.
Well, thank you very much for interviewing me. I appreciate that.
Kidding, this is a blast. So Todd Michael, as I said before, his play is called The Big Uncut Flick, which is happening right now at Theater Row through the 17th of December. And the best part is that it is also in the house. It's like a mall. I just realized that. The Theater Row to me is like a mall. You can go to different shows in the same space, but that's the best part. It gives you that option of seeing things like this particular piece and others like this, because, I mean, where else are you going to be able to have access to it if other theaters are closing around the city? This is one of the few places that you can do this. And I love the idea that you got to do a version of another show in Wisconsin. And I'm going to tell you why. Because people that listen to this podcast, when I say to them, you know, that creating theater, you know, like it's these pieces that you can have in your communities, that you can do things with, that you can start exploring your own concept of creativity in terms of performing, you know, of being able to put together a show, sets, lights, costumes. These are those pieces of training that you can get in your own hometown. So the idea that there's someone in Wisconsin, tell me where.
Eau Claire. It's a college town. It's a very liberal town.
Wow.
But a lot of the people there, it's only an hour or so from Minneapolis, and the thing that was so amazing was that a lot of people that came to the show were like, oh, we go to Minneapolis to see this. We need to have this stuff here. This is really cool. So, and that kind of floored me because I just didn't know. And I mean, I was glad to, you know, I thought it'd be great to do one of my own plays somewhere else and see what other people who do basically community theater, what their take would be on it. And they were great. They were like so excited to do like a new piece and not do the same old thing. And like I said, I enjoyed the fact that I only had to act in it and did not have to produce. I let someone else do that.
See? So I love that. So for all of you theater owners or small theater owners that are in the communities that are listening, if you're within the earshot, it's like, not only is it an opportunity to have pieces like this in your town that are different, unconventional, and weird, but this is also an opportunity for you, wherever you are, to discover something completely new to you. Because again, Todd Michaels is not going to wind up ending at this stage right now in his career. You're not going to necessarily say his name is next to Terrence McNally today. You know what I'm saying? But 10, 15 years from now, when everybody's like, oh my God, did you hear about Todd Michael? And then it's like, there you are in that same space. And this is the opportunity for people to discover. And this is how they do that, because, starts in a place like Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And then the next thing you know, Austin, Texas, hip and groovy.
Yeah, Austin's cool.
Austin is cool. That, here we are doing something like this.
My plays are on indietheater.com, and people can do them everywhere. And every once in a while, I actually get emails from these theater companies, and God knows where we're thinking. I just actually had one last year. What's it, from Omaha? I remember. I think I emailed Susan that they do very unconventional. They were looking at 2 or 3 different Christmas shows, and they had seen, I guess, all this publicity for ours, and they picked something more well known, and that's fine. But the thing is that every once in a while, I get these emails from these really crazy places that want to do different theater. So it is out there, and it's so hey, indietheater.com. They have all my plays. You can do them. They're basically like 70-minute plays, 75-minute plays. You could do 2, and they do a double feature. I don't care. I mean,
do it in repertoire.
I do it in repertoire. I've actually have thought about that, doing a double feature thing. But except my thing about parody is that it really shouldn't be longer than 90 minutes. I think people start to get really I think that's because every time I've seen something that is parody, and it's like after about 80 or 90 minutes, I'm like, okay, this isn't funny anymore. Yeah, I think it's really hard to hold the audience that long for that. Yeah.
Love it. But Todd Michael, thank you again. I mean, again, we like I said, you are here in New York, but it seems like your work is reaching people outside. And again, for those of you who are looking for a different theater experience when you're coming to New York City, this is the opportunity for you to come and see something different for the holidays. So I hope that you make the effort. If you're going to come to the city, come see something different, come see something special. And take it home with you. I love it. So again, thank you so much, Todd. This is really great.
Thank you.
And I hope that you guys are listening. Holiday Ideas. This is part of the Holidays Ideas section. You're going to love it. All right, and we'll be back.